Been a good day today. I had a couple of good moments. Spontaneous conversations, man, and it's a great moment because I'm empowered to speak about this new thing, the new thing, and being a subscriber, you would be a little familiar with that, and so I've got more to say. So really should go into the just some housework, because just to reiterate, what the contention is. We should actually go over, just to refresh our minds, the 8 laws. Now, so briefly, the contention is that anxiety is a political entity that's culture shocked into existence by the event of birth. Okay, that's the contention, right? And so, sorry about this. Jeez, it's not very good, is it? So yeah. Anyway, so just to reiterate it, right, the reason that nobody can figure out anxiety, the reason for all of the social problems, the reason that all of the academic world has not figured this out after literally probably trillions of man hours in the history of the world, man. Potentially, billions of man hours at least. And there's no answers for all these things they've been exclusively working on, right? All the efforts have come to nothing. All the universities, hospitals, medical professionals, teachers, parents, police, psych services, prison services, they're all pushing the proverbial up the hill, man, because they are not allowed to bring anxiety into disrepute. Okay? And it is because anxiety is a political entity that is comprised of 8 laws that have multiple overlapping anti-tamper measures. And this is why nobody has ever questioned anxiety, actually, and everyone sweeps under the carpet. And everyone knows you're not allowed to ask questions about anxiety. Everyone knows you're not allowed to, which is why the reason of the second law, which I'll come to. Yeah, imagine if it became widely known that there were people that disregarded these laws of anxiety. And I can imagine that two things may happen. One thing is people would fear that person because they did not acknowledge anxiety. But the second is people would go, oh, thank God someone is sticking up for us. And so this is really a rally point for the human race. Okay, because I know that everybody would rather roll with consciousness rather than anxiety. I know it. So the first law of anxiety is one must conceal their anxieties. The second law of anxiety is you must allow all others to conceal their anxieties. The third law of anxiety is you must allow when someone seeks to ignore. The fourth law of anxiety is you must, without question, accept the dishonesty that results from the first three laws. The fifth law of anxiety is to acquiesce to they which are expressing the most anxiety. The sixth law of anxiety is to never, by way of action, fail to express support for the laws of anxiety. The seventh law of anxiety is one must, at every opportunity, seek to undermine and maintain an ongoing disruption for anyone that seeks to challenge the laws of anxiety. The eighth law of anxiety is all people must at every opportunity promote anxiety as wisdom. And these 8 laws are why these issues on the face of this planet with the human species have not been mitigated, and in fact they are getting worse, because as has been observed, rich people and people that seek to control others replicate the function of anxiety as it events in the mind. Okay? And because without this as has been standard practice, courage will acknowledge anxiety. And in the political sphere, acknowledging anxiety is tantamount to acquiescing to it, to capitulating to it. And this is just normal. Everyone capitulates to it. Everyone acknowledges anxiety is politically credible and capitulates to it and acquiesces to it, right? Okay, so that's why no one can figure out the drug thing, because everyone knows that it's because of an anxiety that people start using drugs. They want to bail out of this way of things, and they believe they are going to spend some quality time with consciousness, right? And this is, because there's no way out. There is no way out. If everybody thinks that anxiety is wisdom, and the only political credibility in that sphere is anxiety, and the only way to influence people is to express anxiety, right? Okay, so people don't like that. People instinctively think, nah, don't want to know about it. And so, and we get such hard, beaten up people from this. They're just completely ambushed so much that they go homeless. Right, they go homeless, and now that's the overt styles, right? Because they have a total aversion to relationships. Right? They have a total aversion to relationships, right? And that's why they become homeless, right? That is why they become homeless, right? And so, and then you can have multiple kind of measures of that. Because anyone who has grown up with parents that argue a lot, yeah, they're homeless as well. Because when your house is governed, when the emotional tone is set by hostilities, right, that is not home. And the child will not be able to, they can't recognise a relationship there, you know. Because a little kid, they instinctively know how it should go, right? They instinctively know how it should go. And so many of us have been ripped off from that, right? Okay, we have our birthright stolen by anxieties, right? And that's in that respect. And so let's just see if we can get the whole world on board with this, because when anxiety knows that people are onto it, it stops. Okay, so if all sorts of people in the whole world become aware of this discovery, that is an amnesty, okay, an amnesty, then anxiety can't function. Okay, anxiety can't function. There is nobody around to believe in it. And so it won't materialise. It won't materialise. Now that's a true thing. And okay, so that's a true thing. And so there's a strange thing, because I remember that movie Clash of the Titans. You know, the gods were all worried about the people forgetting that the gods were there, and so it's only by virtue of people focusing on it that it lived, right? But you know, this is why it's been proved that the only reason that human beings ever conceptualized a god was to express the instinctive, intuited reality that anxiety, while no one is able to speak about it, they've still created stylistic representation of the anxiety, and this is what has conceptualized the idea that there is a deity, a god, and gods. And so many people have them. The Indians have them, and all sorts of, most peoples have this thing, because we know that there's a big presence there, this big energy system that is consciousness. This is what we instinctively know is true, because we experience that here on Earth, right? And to know that there is a presence there, but because of how anxiety is created by the event of birth, the culture shock event of birth, everything gets filtered through that. And so while consciousness in the individual's situation instinctively knows there's the greater consciousness, okay, because the filters, because anxiety's hijacked the mind, that means because of the finite equation that anxiety is, the 8 laws is, you have the singular answer. So alongside this intuited certainty that there is the greater consciousness that exists. Okay, on top of that is the anxiety perspective with the finite equation of the 8 laws, which has a singular answer. Okay, it has a singular answer, and this has led to the conceptualization of God, you know, in the many shapes and forms that the humans that have used language to express these things. There's been many iterations of this, right? So I'm actually real pleased that this will enable to eliminate that language issue out of it, man. Just because, you know what? Do you think with words? Okay, do you think with language? Okay, because that's the question, man. That's absolutely the question. Because this is what you've learnt as a means to express yourself. Okay, and I say, after talking to the universe about it, that the mind instinctively conceptualizes thoughts according to that speech, that means to express. So that's two issues there. One is we do not think with language. We don't think with language. We think with consciousness. We are consciousness, right? And secondly, we've trained ourselves instinctively to conceptualize the thoughts in a way that suits this language we speak. Okay, that is a problem, because you cannot express consciousness when you've only got this language to express yourself. It's just, you know, this is how we get the world, how we've got it. You know, I was talking to this guy at this garage, right? And I said to him, he said something to me, I was walking out, and I walked back and I said, how would you feel if government came along and regulated the prices of everything sold in the garage here and in the supermarket? He says, no, I'm a liberal, man. You know, I'm for libertarianism. We should just eliminate the government from life altogether. And I said to him, but that means that would mean that there's no government. He goes, right. And I said to him that, you know, would it be true that actually what you've said is actually because you cannot articulate how you feel? Because if libertarian man there, I said to him, you know, if you had your way, then business will rule society. And he says, oh, that's good though. Oh, it's good. I says, is it? Because they'll slowly strangulate the whole world, man. You know? Because they're junkies. They're fucking money junkies. It's not the money they want at all. It's the event. It's the event of bringing the money in. Right? So these people are junkies, right? They have the morals of a drug addict because they are substance dependent. And so I was having a yak to him and I was telling him about the 8 laws. And it fucking went pretty astonishing, and it turned out that he was a bit of a fan of Mark Dice. Now I've watched Mark's videos. Mark's a he's an objective fellow, old Marco, and he's done some funny stuff, man, like those crazy interviews on the boardwalk at Venice Beach, I suppose it is, asking crazy questions to these crazy people that don't care. They're literally... See, they're spoilt, man. They don't need to know anything. They've just got it too easy. They don't need to give a... They just don't care. And I mean, that's a bit of a blessing. I mean, but it's kind of giving up on life if you don't value education, you know. If you don't value education, then you're squandering your life, because it's not the education that really is of value. It's feeding consciousness. So that's the thing about that. And so I said to him that you know, you get rich people and then you get poor people, and they have the same perspective of their groups, of their political groups, as each other, right? Because they behave the same. Okay, the poor people very rarely actually, you know, they're not on speaking terms with middle class people or rich people. I mean, they don't even have any contact with rich people. But, you know, people generally hang within their own political entity, right? And so, but rich people, they don't think they need to know anything else. They're just going to keep doing what they're doing, and that's all they're going to do. Just like drug addicts. That's what they do as well. And poor people do that as well, because they're not doing anything different and they're getting the same result. And so they're not looking outside the circle, man. And so that's something in common that poor people and rich people have. They are both, they both neither value education. Neither of them value education. And but the middle class do, the silent majority do. We who actually, through actual physical activity, you know, create wealth. We create wealth. And so that's an observed thing, you know. It's an observed thing, and yeah. And so, you know, I'm thinking we have to rescue Star Wars. We have to rescue Star Wars. And I'm thinking, if this political party thing works out, I'm going to, you know what, I'm just going to say to the whole country that we're starting a movie industry in New Zealand, right? Specifically to save Star Wars. Because I've just watched 2 vids on the old YouTube tonight. One was that Gautier friend I used to know, but it was about Star Wars, and yeah, that says it all, man. And so we'll be rebooting that, because I reckon if you did a real serious, I mean, I say save Star Wars, it won't be Star Wars, it'll be a different thing, but it's a super serious, you know, it's in the same, cut from the same cloth as the original Star Wars. It's not, you know, it's not scripted and choreographed to suit a specific market. It is just a straight story, okay? Straight story, you know. And because by that time, it should be quite widely known about the 8 laws, and that it's an amnesty, and it's basically the big, you know, it's the big moment where everyone can find out that they've been doing something wrong all this time. They never knew they were doing it, you know, they were just fitting in with everyone else, which is what all babies do. Go from a baby that does not possess language to then start speaking and working with people around them. Everyone walks into it. It's like being born into an organised crime family with these rules, you know, and And so next thing, gender neutral. Okay. You know, I would love to go to Canada to do a speaking tour about this subject, because it would completely destroy this nut job situation going on over there in Canada. That's where it's most pronounced. Okay, that's where it's most pronounced, this situation. I've watched someone called Jordan Peterson, who's a professor in Canada, and he's just saying, nah, you know, and figuratively speaking, he's just, nah, you're wrong, man. So, because gender neutrality, right, and all these other things that have been going on, right, this is actually about making a country culture neutral. It's not about gay rights. It's not about LBGT. You know, it's not about all those things. They're saying there's like 30-something different sexualities now they've listed in New York. Nah. And all the political correctness, you know, about all that. Whoa. Nah. This is the will of anxiety and the political correctness of anxiety and the trickery it is capable of. So most recently, the gender neutral situation. It's actually, the purpose is to make the country culture neutral. Okay, because anxiety loves someone who is completely capitulated. So while you get these anxiety suffering people who think that anxiety is virtuous, always promoting anxiety and always taking that politically correct according to, you know, they take a politically correct line on anything, they react in that way. It's actually the political correctness of anxiety. Okay. And so, see, that stuck out quite a bit because there's a lot of noise around the place about that. And so that truly is what it's about. It's making a country culture neutral. It is to get everyone to put their brains into neutral. Okay? It's to believe that you don't have a past. You don't have heritage. Okay? So what's coming up is a big surprise, because everyone's going to get reminded that they have culture, because the solid majority's culture is consciousness. That's what it is. It's consciousness. And so, for example, if you look at the propaganda posters of World War One, all of them really, see, it's instinctively intuited, okay? Because when consciousness has been hijacked by anxiety, it still uses that same instinctively intuited wisdom, you know? And so they instinctively intuit how to mess with people's heads to get them to do what they want, right? And so a lot of these posters of World War One were largely to utilise the person's belief in consciousness for the purpose of getting them to believe in war. Now that is a paradox, right? You know, empowering consciousness to get them to believe in war. And this is this amazing science fiction reality that is going on for us, the human beings. It's astonishing. Empowering consciousness to become pro-war. And so this is what goes on. And And that was the First World War. It was a good case study of that kind of thing, because that's from the government to the people, right? But this goes on a lot. It's called peer pressure, right? You know, you try to talk someone into it, and it's like, oh, blah 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 blah. You know, it's to remind people of their anxieties. That's how peer pressure works. It's to remind people of their anxieties, and this is largely what the news does, the media do. It reminds people of their anxieties, right, to be politically credible, right? And there's an element of that in all advertising, where you don't have this thing, and they're trying to say, oh, you should have this thing. It's really, it's an amazing thing. And so that you haven't got that thing as an anxiety, right? And so they utilise consciousness, because courage acknowledges anxiety, right? And this is how the economy actually works, man. And so yeah, it's great to have more subscribers. It's great, man. It's a marvellous, wonderful thing. And you know, I've had this guy. He said at the garage there, he said he was going to become a subscriber, because you know, as you would have had the reaction in yourself becoming a subscriber, that you know, you can get facts, okay, outside the jurisdiction of anxiety, are true facts. Okay, true facts. That is something that is real. Because inside the jurisdiction of anxiety, you have facts according to the lies. Outside the jurisdiction of anxiety, they are facts according to the truth. And so I'm quite liking that. Yeah. So yeah, we've got a new flatmate at home here. He's from Scotland. He's about 30 or something, or whatever he is. And I was telling him about it, right? I was telling him about it. Because the same problems in New Zealand, they exist in the whole Western world, right? And so it's easy to talk about the problems going on, and you can see that the position of the financial system in people's lives, that are as a result of the efforts the establishment have used to maintain their political position in relation to the silent majority, okay, is a very serious problem, because they've this is while it is believed that anxiety is virtuous, okay, this is this format we have that they have operated in and acted in, to where they will replicate the function of anxiety, because courage acknowledges anxiety, right? And so largely a lot of the costs involved with government, a lot of the costs like the health department, the justice system, the cops, right, and all sorts of stuff, right, you know, a lot of that cost is being incurred by the state of the silent majority, is in because of the theatre the establishment have inflicted on us to maintain their political position in relation to us, right? And so my wish is, the task is to stop that. And because the thing is this, if the public agree that anxiety is not wisdom, and the public become objective become aware of the 8 laws, the revelation of the 8 laws, and the government want their votes, and my party, the T-Nil party, will be the ones heavily promoting that in the policy perspective and the policies, right? Should be real interesting, man. This election coming up, because they cannot challenge it. They cannot. It's unchallengeable. It's undeniable that it is fact, and this is a remarkable situation that we are in. It's not just me. It's we. Okay. Because I know for a fact that that's exactly how it would play out here in New Zealand, and I know wherever you do this in the world, it will go the same way. It will go the same way, and so I'm quite excited about that. And so that first mission that I've got on is to print the old pamphlet up and then deliver it out to the members of the public, at the mall, and then go from there. And I know the reaction, because I've just talked to 3 people this weekend, and they anyone can see the math of it. Anyone can see the math of it, right? And so it's a wondrous thing. Because, you see, it's according, actually everyone operates according to the character of consciousness, whether they have been hijacked by anxieties or not. If they have not been hijacked by anxieties, they still can't articulate consciousness, right? And so there's this happy medium we're all sitting in, and because we've got to engage with people that do believe that anxiety is virtuous, this is where the language is. This is the development of language. Okay? And I mean, the Catholic Church did do the Inquisitions for 500 years and virtually genocided vast areas of, Europe. And yet Islam did it to India. Alright. That's 2 places where they value education, actually, because India is very heavily, they've got the mean philosophers, the ancient philosophers, and that's an educational thing, right? Philosophy is education, and it's about personal growth. Philosophy is about personal growth, and so this is about consciousness. This is about contributing to consciousness. Okay. And so, the Muslims went in there and slaughtered like just tens of millions of people, man. And there was mass war about it. And that's why Pakistan's Pakistan and India's India, because the British went in there, right? And they made Pakistan the Muslim place and India the non-Muslim place, right? And that's what they did in Europe too. 500 years of it, man. It's like, that's just standard practice for anxiety though. But it was in that format, right? In the format of religion, because courage acknowledges anxiety. That meant that religion, people had to agree with religion, okay? And so any little practice that people could get caught out on, could result in death, which is according to the political correctness of anxiety, right? Because courage is completely offensive to anxiety, right? And so this is, that leads up to where the world is, for where we are now. That leads up to the beginning of where we are now, which really was the late 1800s, and so culturally, because there's been more wars. What do they say? There's been more conflict since the UN started than before it. Okay, so actually you can see I know there's lots of good intentions all over the show, but you can see how that's gravitated. How the civilization has gravitated. They say there's more people. There's been more conflict since the UN started than before it, which is a big statement. I mean, the before thing is a long, long time, and the after thing is only, it's not even 100 years. It's only about 60, 70 years the UN's been going. And I think there's more effective weapons, because anxiety loves to appropriate the gun as vocabulary. Okay, because it's only an extrapolation of what anxiety likes to do to courage. When courage is pushing back, anxiety likes to dominate courage, right? And so the gun has become the vocabulary of anxiety, actually, the political correctness of anxiety. Because once you start using the gun to communicate, you're really not actually... The start point of the difference of opinion is well and truly forgotten, man. It's... Anyway. And so there's a vid there. Got Sun and Moon group on Tuesday, that they've said, 9 p.m. London time. And so I should be okay, because the work I do has vast waiting periods. Last week it was 4 hours, and so really I've got 3 hours. I've got about 3 hours or 4 hours of time that I'm just sitting waiting. And so that'll be great. And but yeah, just to reiterate that thing of the language thing. We don't think with words. That is what we have learnt to express what we think. Okay, and the language, the words, that has been developed according to the collective belief that anxiety is wisdom. It suits that happy medium of what you're permitted to communicate and express according to the first two laws. Okay? So there's two things there that stop you from expressing consciousness. And actually it makes it impossible to articulate consciousness if you use those means to express yourself. Okay? That language is an interface we have learnt to use to express consciousness, and the language has been developed after the formation of the social more that anxiety is wisdom. Okay? And so, and here we have the civilization as a result of that. And so that's the main point of my video today. Want to give a big shout out to Elon Musk. I think what he's done is mind-bogglingly awesome. To throw the rule book out the window and just do what he thinks should be done. And so, I mean, he almost had the whole three, but he had his booster rockets take off and blast this thing up into the space and then land on these specific little spots. That's a tremendous result, man. And he would have had the main stage land back on Earth as well, but there was something wrong and it failed in the water. But this actually, this is a super significant event because, for so long now, since Isaac Asimov became famous for writing science fiction, virtually inventing the genre on his own. We've had this idea that we should be actually be able to fly in spaceships and have that freedom of operating, which is really actually at a conceptual level is actually to function according to consciousness. That is what it is about. And in this physical realm, that's how that expression kind of looks, I think. We assume we should be able to do this because it would be according to consciousness that we should desire to do something like that. And so yeah, the space shuttle they use, the Americans use, I've thought for a long time, they use that way specifically because it costs a lot of money and they want the political optics to be that this is the best way of doing it. Okay? And so, and that could be actually, that could be rather, mostly generated that they wanted it to cost as much money as possible. Because that's what the establishment like. That means justifying taking money out of the public purse, which is what they like. And that's largely their only role in life, is to appropriate money out of the public purse into their private bank accounts, And so, but yeah, so such a massive, he's virtually increased, he's created headspace for the human race, is what he's done. And that's such a massive favour, because creating headspace, it automatically makes anxieties smaller. And so I'm very pleased of that result that he's achieved. And he's hell bent on it, eh? He's like got his electric cars, he's got his space rocket stuff going on, and he's saying, oh, my booster rocket's right, they're 16 stories tall, but man, we need to build one much, much bigger than this. This guy's, I like this dude, man. He's just, of course, he's proved it works, and now he needs a proper size one. No, he's all about going to Mars and things. He's very open-minded about the possibilities of, utilising technology to facilitate travel, and taking it to the most extreme levels as he can, which is great. This is actually what consciousness does. It perceives, it perceives this thing. Consciousness consciousness perceives. Okay? And so this is the issue with language. Language prohibits perceiving solutions, man. According to our actual will and what we actually want to express, language robs us of articulation, and our language robs us of the means to perceive, because we can't articulate it, and we have all trained ourselves. We've all trained ourselves and other people as we go from babies without language to kids with language. We learn that this is the way people do it, right? And so this is a it's a terrible thing. It's completely squandering this experience of being this conscious being, it is absolutely squandering it because we can't articulate in our mind, and we actually, it's not a matter of can't articulating, we've trained ourselves to only articulate according to this language, and I'm very troubled by this. So that's something, as I've said in the previous video, that there is a massive problem, that there is a lack of language to support the expression of consciousness. And as it is, it's just not fit for purpose, because it's actually pro-anxiety because it's one-dimensional. It's singular. It just puts things in a singular dimensional tone. And see, being such a low quality, it's such a low quality interface. This is why it's got some really kind of bad characteristics, like because the language is actually it's not possible to be very articulate with this language. This is why it can be easily corrupted. And so it's been developed. It's been developed way back then. It's been developed according to this political jurisdiction that is the first two laws. And I've asked lots of people, did you get told as a kid that we only use 10% of our, 10% of our brain? And largely all of them have said yes, including Mr. Scotland there, Stewart. He said that absolutely, yeah. And so as we start learning to speak, we find that out, we get told that, we learn that, people tell us that it's the truth. It's not the truth, man. It's a big fat lie. And so anyway, I feel comfortable in saying the book will be ready for publishing around September, because there's tremendous responsibility with writing this, because it's about, as I've been just telling you, as I've just been relaying and articulating this is of supreme importance, man. And so anyway, that's slowly being composed. There's got to be, it's like this. The composition has to be composed, okay? And the most unique aspect of this, attempting this and achieving this, is that actually this is something everyone is already really familiar with. Okay? That's the trippy thing, man. Everyone is already familiar with the 8 laws and how they work, and all these little nuances and bylaws and little things, and how it plays out for different social situations, how different social groups utilise different combinations of the algorithm. Who is it you can't talk to? Who is it you can't talk to? Because I guarantee you, it's the promotion of anxiety as wisdom and virtue has been attached to your experience with this person, and they've done it on purpose. Okay, that's a true fact, man. Tell you what happened, right? The new guy, Scott, right? He's got this BMW, right, and he's parked in the driveway there. I'd said he could park in the driveway because it's a nice car. But he parked it like 3 metres back from the garage, right, which virtually left me only a bare minimum amount of room to be able to get past him, because I parked in the garage. And I was getting past him like this. And the other day, did the night shift, 3 night shifts, right. Well, after the second one, got to sleep at about 8 in the morning, and so then I got woken up by my agency, freaking out, So that took about till lunchtime before I got to sleep, because I had to go and see them and that. And so I get to sleep at 12 o'clock at lunchtime, and then fucking 1:30 they rang up again, and just to clarify they'd sussed it out, and it's like oh great, yeah. And so I had to go to work at 6 that night, right? And so I had no sleep. And anyway, the Thursday night's night shift, I woke up and I said I was saying all this to Stuart. They kept me awake and it was like, fuck, And he parked his car way back like that, and I actually backed into it, right, just on the back corner. And I almost missed it, man, by so close. Literally, it was 20 millimetres, okay? 20 millimetres. My wheel arch hit his back bumper. And so I told him about it, and so he kept parking his car though afterwards, right, in the days afterwards. He kept parking his car in the same place, leaving actually minimal room for me to get around him. Where he should have been up to within a metre from the garage door, or the other door from where I come out, a metre, and then there's plenty of room, right? And tonight, right, was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. I said to him, you should park your car forward a bit more, up by the garage, right? Park it about a metre away from the garage door would be great. He says, oh, so it's out of your way? That's what he said to me. I said, could you please park your car up close to the garage door? Oh, what, so it's out of your way? And that's a fact, that's what he said. And so you see, he's come along a long path where he's kept a strictly politically correct respect of anxiety, as does, he learned it as a kid growing up. He saw it when he was a baby with that language, come into it, and to keep himself safe, you have to, it's the political correctness of anxiety, and that's your relationship to people. And so why would he have said that? Is what he said. Can you please park your car up by the garage? And he says, oh, so I'm not in your way. And so this is actually, I said to him tonight that, what I've discovered is an amnesty, okay? It's an amnesty, okay? But I tell you, when I asked you to get your car up by the garage and you said, oh, what, so it's out of your way? And I pointed out to him that he'd said that, and I reckon that's, because most people never get challenged on this, right? Remember that. Most people never have to answer for their actions when they are promoting anxiety as virtuous, because everyone acquiesces to it, right? And so he never, this is not in his realm of experience, actually, that this is a questionable thing that practice. And so it's only by virtue that I've observed this and qualified a rebuttal, okay, about this, that now these data points coming out, and now it's very easy for me to see who is under the influence of anxiety and who is a victim of the ambush culture anxiety brings with it, because it is an ambush artist. If someone who believes in the political correctness of anxiety sees someone who rolls with courage, they'll immediately try and put their stamp on them or replicate the function of anxiety as events in the mind. Just occupy that person's mind with anything that they think they need to get the person to capitulate to that anxiety. Okay, that's what happens. And so that's a very common event right there. Someone will want to have the moral authority over someone, and so they'll replicate the function of anxiety over that person's mind, and for the purpose of getting them to acquiesce to that anxiety. So this is why I say the true economy of the world is the relationship between anxiety and courage, and the fact that courage acknowledges anxiety, and anxiety inflicts the political correctness of anxiety on people. And it's unchallengeable. It's unchallengeable when courage acknowledges anxiety, and the social more and the common belief and the conventional wisdom is that anxiety is virtuous for all intents and purposes, this is the way it's been going. And that's how someone can actually come along, ambush someone, okay, to get them to be under the influence of the anxiety, right? Because they replicate the function of anxiety, but how that computes in the other mind, they're pretending that they're having an anxiety attack. Okay, that's what they're doing. If the person inflicting the anxiety is on the other, and courage acknowledges anxiety, right? It's a simulated event of anxiety in the person's mind. Okay, it's a simulated event, and that is effectively real because we're talking about the mind, right? And so this is deeper understanding of the personal relationship. It's not the function of the whole, the group, which is what it is in the historical context. It is how people treat each other. And so how many, you get domestic violence, right? Well, I know that, in New Zealand, and I've mentioned this before, man, you get this thing where the police call it non-fatal strangulation. Okay, so non-fatal strangulation. And so really, what is that? I say this, right? I say that every instance of non-fatal strangulation is someone trying to defend themselves from an ongoing anxiety ambush that is a sustained assault on the person's mind, because when the conventional wisdom is that anxiety is virtuous, there's literally nothing you can say to stop them, and the only thing you can do is strangle them, right? There's literally nothing you can do or say that will stop them from just feeding that anxiety machine, man. And it's an emotional meat grinder, right? And so there's another little evidence of how the political correctness of anxiety works. Because the cops come along and they believe that anxiety is wisdom because they go into all these bad places, and they immediately gravitate to the anxiety view. And so in the instance of the anxiety, the narcissistic anxiety worshipper, which is what they are, will then tell the story that, the person on the receiving end of that, the person that's guilty of physically stopping the person speaking, okay, which is self-defense, because they've been under this assault for so long, they are subdued. They're in a subdued state. They are in shock, and so they can't speak. Now, to the cops coming in, right, that looks like they're guilty because they can't look at anyone in the eye because their confidence has been shattered. And, but the person inflicting all the anxieties onto the person, they're all talkative, man, and it's like, believe me. And it's like, when you get out to the, should do a video of that sociopaths and narcissists, right? But the heavy duty end of that political correctness of anxiety thing, it'll inflict the most offence it can, and then it will actually turn around and play the big victim. Okay, they cause as much offence as they can, and then to a third party, they'll be as energetic as being a victim as they can. Okay, and so this is the character of anxiety, because it wants to protect itself from being detected, right? It wants to stop people from finding out its activities, right? It wants to keep its function secret. Okay, so they'll immediately come across as a big victim. And so when you consider all the people going through the family court system and the justice system, okay, there's a lot of people in prison that are there, that have ended up there because they were a captive victim of ongoing anxiety warfare against their courage. Okay, and so if my political aspirations, my political party thing, work out, I'll be having people go through all of the people in prison, and then you can consider all the people who are in there for drug possession, okay, for personal use level of drug possession, right? Okay, they have the drug thing because they want to have some quality time with consciousness, because the world around them is so loaded with frequency of events of anxiety. And because it's a highly competitive thing, political correctness, there's a lot of high quality experiences of the political correctness of anxiety. And this is this insane asylum the world is. Okay, and anyway, that's the main point of it. It's a further analysis of the role of language in society, and how that language facilitates the existence of the political correctness of anxiety, and it facilitates the expression of courage at a minimal 10% level, but it's 100% of the political correctness of anxiety. And that's that's. Now I'm saying this, I'm thinking up this, and I'm saying this, and I'm thinking it's something worth knowing. And I think, as it is commonly the case, there's be certain data points that's leapt out to you, that's more salient to you, that's more obvious. There's something, in your situation, there's something that would resonate with your situation. And so the big thing is just to be relaxed. That is the greatest achievement. Anyway, look, it's great. It's been great, and more to come.